Today I want to look at a lens that is kind of interesting. This is the Canon 28-70 f2.8. Not a 24-70, a 28-70. Now the reason why I think this is sort of an interesting lens is because where it's positioned in the market. You know, like who is this for? Because let's lay out a hypothetical situation here. Let's say you have a camera that's less expensive than an R6 or an R5, something like an R8, an R7 maybe, you know, something like that. Maybe you got a good deal on an R6 Mark I. You know, you don't have the money to shell out for an R6 Mark II. Those are expensive cameras. But you still want a standard zoom that's f2.8 because everyone wants a standard zoom that's f2.8. This thing is, as I will talk about later, incredibly versatile and incredibly useful. So what do? Okay, well the first thing I always do is I always go back to the EF lenses and I look at what can I get on the EF mount and adapt to RF. So other lenses that I was looking at were the old Sigma EF mount 24-70 and the old Tamron 24-70. Both have 2.8. Now those were decent lenses. I'm not going to say that they're bad. However, they showed their ages in certain respects, in certain optical flaws and stuff like that. I watched so many videos about those lenses and I ended up being pushed towards this because of the flaws of those two older lenses, and also the price difference wasn't that big. If you wanted a nice one, you were only a couple $100s off of this lens. So how much does this cost? Brand new, this is $1,000. Now that's expensive, especially for something that isn't an L lens and doesn't come with a goddamn hood, Canon. But what do you get for that? And that's what we're going to take a look at today. So an actual real benefit as we're looking at the sort of build quality and physical dimensions of this lens is it's actually quite small. It's actually very small. We do have this sort of system that we've all seen before in Canon RF lenses that you have to extend it before you can use the get to the usable focal length here. Now, I do kind of hate that, I'm not gonna lie, especially if you're not careful. I have before gone like this and gone past 28 and then your recording stops. That is extremely annoying, but I think after you get used to it, it's fine. I still hate it though, but it is what it is. Obviously this is an f2.8 lens. We have your control ring / focus ring. I do end up bumping this all the time when it's set to control and I'm using it to control my aperture. I bump it all the time. It's annoying, but at least it's there, I will say. And of course we have optical image stabilization, as you would expect. So you got 2 switches. This one's kind of also annoying because I can never get it. For the first couple months of using this lens, it's hard to get it to stick into that middle section because it's too stiff, but also that is what it is. Now, another interesting thing about this lens, quoting Canon directly, this is L series optical quality in a non-L series lens, but also it has weather sealing. So it's sort of interesting. It's like, what is the difference between this and an L series lens, you may be asking? And that is what I am here to tell you because I've used this extensively for many months now. And the biggest downfall of this lens is in-camera corrections. This thing without in-camera corrections, it can get quite abhorrent with its distortion, with its vignetting. So a lot of modern lenses are doing this, but this is actually wider than a 28. If you put it in this position, you actually get a larger field of view than 28mm. But in-camera corrections basically crops that image to make it the equivalent of a 28mm lens. Now that's all fine and dandy. You take pictures raw, you import them to Lightroom, you apply the camera correction, we're good. Or you take them JPEG and it's corrected in camera. However, I have run into a lot of situations where when I'm shooting at specifically the wide end of this lens, I still get some pretty extreme corner vignetting and almost looks like to where the corners are cut off. And I have to go in there and manually correct. which is kind of unheard of for a modern lens like this, but that is the reality, and that is why this is not an L series lens, is because you have that issue. Now, I am willing to forgive it because talking about sharpness now, it's pretty phenomenal. Honestly, it's quite good, especially when you compare it to those aforementioned older 24-70 f2.8 lenses. This is quite the sharp lens all throughout its zoom range. I'm not gonna say that it is perfect because there are, like, you know, touches of softness at either extreme end, but honestly, overall, all in all, sharpness and optical quality is quite good. But you do just have to keep in mind that you're going to be dealing with a lot of distortion if you're shooting RAW, so just plan accordingly. It's not a deal breaker because, you know, the lens profile corrections do exist, but it is something to think about. Now let's get back to some of the basic stuff. How's the focusing? It's perfect. It's a modern RF lens. How is the stabilization? It's perfect. It's a modern RF lens. Now, that is something that if you're looking at the older lenses as well, you cannot say that about those older lenses. As we are seeing now on an old EF to RF lens that is struggling to focus. Come on. Come on. I believe you, Sigma 24-105 f4. You can do it. Thank you. And the next question people are going to ask is this. 28. Do you miss the 4mm of focal length? And the answer is no, not really. Like I said, I'm recording on a 24-105 right now, so I do have that experience of shooting with a lens that can go back that wide and also zoom out. It's not a big deal. It's fine. Sometimes when I'm recording a video like this, that's really the only scenario where I'm like, oh, I need to go out a little wider and I can't. But it says something that I have not bought an ultra wide angle lens. I've just been using this for all of my video stuff, all of my sort of standard zoom photography. It doesn't matter if I'm at Niagara Falls taking pictures, sort of wide angle pictures of the falls, or if I'm at a car meet and I'm taking pictures with nice bokeh. I am using this lens all of the time. So at the end of the day, I definitely think I would recommend this lens. It is pricey. It is indeed pricey, but when you look at the other options out there, don't have a ton of choices, honestly. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, I mean, in some ways this is kind of better than some of those larger lenses because this is very compact. It's very small. You can tuck it away in a bag and it hardly takes up any space. I would definitely give it a look.